Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Catherine Crochets podcast. Hi, my name's Catherine. I'm a crochet designer from South London in the UK, and this is my podcast where I talk about all my recent crochet projects. I'm also going to talk a little bit at the end about some audiobooks that I've been listening to recently while I've been crocheting, because I know some of you have liked hearing about those in the past and I forgot to include them last time. I hope you're all well. It's Sunday the 21st of August here, and it's a lovely sunny day, not too hot. We've had a bit of a heat wave here recently, but luckily things are cooling down again. So we're getting some nice warm mid-20s temperatures here, which is much better than what it has been. We did have a spot of rain the other day, but still not really enough. Our lawn is pretty much dead, and lots of the plants as well have all wilted and not looking very happy for themselves. So really hoping for a bit more rain as well soon, but we'll have to see if that comes. It's been summer holidays for my daughters here. They're not back at school until early September. Last week they went down to my parents for I think about 5 days and had a really nice time. They live down near the south coast of England, so they had a couple of trips to the coast and days out, and both my girls and my parents really like doing crafty things. My mum's really into sewing, machine embroidery, so she did some sewing with the girls, and my dad likes to paint. He's an artist, so he did some painting with the girls. They got them all set up with easels, sort of makeshift easels out on the patio, and they did some really nice painting as well while they were there. So they had a really good time. And although I was working most of the week, my husband and we did take the opportunity to have one night away in Bath, which is a city we really like. We've been there a couple of times over the last few years and really enjoy it. So we had a nice night away with some really nice food and just time to relax in the spa at the hotel where we were staying. So that was really good. Also, that was the weekend when it was really, really hot, and the hotel, our room in the hotel was air conditioned, which was absolutely amazing. So that was really, really good timing in that regard. Anyway, let's get on with the crochet. I've got 4 crochet projects to talk to you about today. 3 of them are actually finished, and only one of them is a WIP, a work in progress. So let's get started. The first one I've got to show you, it's actually it's an old-ish project in that I think I must have made it last winter because it was for a magazine publication. So this is the Vita blanket, and it is quite big, so I won't be able to show you the whole thing in one go, but I'll pop in a picture from the magazine. It was in Crochet Now magazine, so you can get a better sense of the whole thing. But basically it's a square blanket, a giant solid granny square, with these tapestry crochet leaf motifs all over it. I've done it in 2 different colours, alternating colours. This one I think was called Sage, and this one was called Lime. So yeah, this was for Crochet Now magazine, and it came out, I thought it was April, but then I was just looking and I think it might actually have been the last day of March, but anyway, sometime March, April time earlier this year, which means I probably must have made it might have been Christmas time, I'm not sure, I can't remember. You normally have to make them a few months before publication, so I did make this quite a while ago. Anyway, but the rights to the pattern, I'm now able to publish it myself, and I've just released that this morning, and the pattern for the Vita blanket is now available on Etsy Etsy, Ravelry, and I just got the email saying that it's also up now on Love Crafts. And if you're watching this in time, you can get 15% off with the code. What was the code? Hang on. If you use the code VITA15, VITA 15, I'll put all of this in the show notes and links to the patterns and everything I talk about as well. So in the description bit underneath this podcast, to make sure you get the right thing. But if you use that code, you can get 15% off the pattern from now until Friday. Friday being the 26th, I think. Yeah, I think. Anyway, this coming Friday. So if you're watching it after that, you can't get the discount, but you can still get the pattern. So this is the Vita blanket. So the motifs, I was quite pleased about the leaf motifs, can you call them that? The shape of the leaf, because it's not just sort of standard tapestry crochet where you have like a grid of stitches. In this case, they're all UK, well, they're not all, but mainly UK treble stitches. So it's not just a standard grid. So I've used some to sort of give the shape of the leaf a smoother outline. I've used some treble 2 together, or even treble 3 together, and then also sort of complementary, putting 2 trebles or 3 trebles in the same stitch, and that gives a much smoother and less kind of step-like outline to the shape of each motif. And it's the same technique that I used in my Hestia blanket pattern as well. So if you're making that, then you'll be familiar with it. And in the pattern there's a link to a video tutorial explaining how to do it, or if you just go to the tutorials section of this YouTube channel, then you'll be able to watch a video showing you how to do that as well. It's not really that complicated, but it does give a much nicer outline to the motifs. So yeah, this is the Vita blanket. I made it, the magazine, I suggested a cotton yarn for it, and the magazine, they choose the exact yarn. So this is made with King Cole Yarns Cotton Soft DK, which is 100% cotton. And so I think because it's cotton, obviously it's not very fluffy, it's got really good stitch definition, and it's nice and smooth, and this is a very soft cotton yarn. It's a really nice one to use. So because of that, I think it'd be really good to use this as a picnic blanket, and I quite like the idea of just throwing down a rug covered in leaves and eating your picnic on it. But I think it would, if you wanted to make something a bit snugglier, not that it's not snuggly and warm, but if you did want something a little more cozy, you could use, for example, like a DK acrylic yarn, like Stylecraft Special or something like that, and you'd get a more cozier sort of woolly like blanket. And obviously there's lots of other choices of yarn you could use as well. Like I said, I used 2 different colours of yarn for the leaves, but there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't use more. I'd suggest using just 1 colour for each round of leaves, otherwise it could get a bit complicated. Or I do tapestry crochet with more than 1 colour at once, but I think because there's quite long sections where you carry the coloured yarn, if you were doing 2 different colours, obviously the distance that you'd be carrying it would be even further. So personally, I'd stick to a single colour for each round of leaves, but you could have more than 2 different colours. And obviously I've gone for greens. That was sort of in keeping with the style for the issue of the magazine, but you could do it in autumn colours as well, like reds and oranges and maroons and browns or something like that. I think that would look really good too. And you could do it on a dark background or a light background, whatever you like. So that's the Vita blanket. It is out today on Etsy and Ravelry and Love Crafts, and you can get 15% off until Friday with the code Vita15 if you buy it on, that's only available on Ravelry and Etsy, which I think is enough for most people, because I don't get that many sales through Lovecrafts anyway. But I don't think you can. I've never worked out how to put a discount code on Lovecrafts. So yeah, the discount is just on Etsy and Ravelry. So that is item number 1, the Vita blanket. Item number 2, I'm just going to talk about this one quite quickly, I think, because although it's finished, it won't be the last time I talk about it, and I did talk about it last time as well. So it's just a little update really. So this blanket I showed you all last time, and there were ends needed weaving in, and I hadn't yet done the border, and I hadn't decided on the name, but I think I'd done everything apart from weaving in the ends and the borders, so that's not much changed. But I've given it a dark blue border, sewn in all the ends, and I've decided to call it the Jura blanket, which means autumn rain, because the pattern sort of reminds me of wheat and autumn, and also sort of falling raindrops. So I thought autumn rain would be a good name for the blanket. I haven't yet written up the pattern. Once I do, it's not too complicated to write up, because it's just rows. It's not like there's different motifs and strange things going on and joining and complicated borders or anything like that. So it shouldn't take too long to write up, and then I'll send out a call for testers like I said I would do. And I think I wouldn't ask testers to make the whole thing, although they'd be welcome to, but it would just be to make a few repeats, or like a small swatch to test out the pattern repeat, because obviously once you've done a bit of it, it's just the same all the way along, and then the border's pretty simple. So yeah, hopefully this will be out, we're late August now, so hopefully, yeah, by the end of September, that will be my target to get this out, which seems like a suitable time to get out a blanket called Autumn Rain, at least in the Northern Hemisphere anyway. So that will be coming soon, and then I'll do a bit of a bigger chat and explanation about it again when and the techniques and the yarn and all that when it comes out. But yeah, hopefully in the next week or so, I'll have time to write that one up and get it out. So that was the Jura blanket. I'm going to show you, got 2 things left to show you. Both of them are garments, other people's patterns that I'm working on. So yeah, one, I'll show you an update. This one is coming on quite well. This is the Candelaria cardigan that I'm making by, I think I showed it to you last time. It's by Sandra Gutierrez at Nomad Stitches, and this is her Candelaria cardigan. So I think last time I might have started the first sleeve, so I've done all of the main body and the bottom ribbing. I've not sewn in any ends at all, and I have now finished one whole sleeve and done the cuff, and I have started work on the second sleeve. Shall I pop it on to show you what it looks like? And then it will tell you a story about the sleeves. So it's, well, after I finish this sleeve, it's still got all the ribbing and button band to do around here. And then there is an option as well to add pockets. So I'll stand up and rather close to the camera. But yeah, really pleased with how this is coming on. So I'm hoping to crack on with this and get it finished off over the next few weeks. So maybe next time I podcast, I'll have a finished cardigan, and maybe the weather will be cool enough by then to wear it. Who knows? Because it's a bit too hot now. Now, what I did when I was making the sleeve, if you know the pattern or have seen the pictures of it, it's actually quite a loose, sort of slouchy, wear at home kind of cardigan. And it says in the pattern that it was deliberately designed like that. I think mine might get a bit bigger with blocking, but I made a mistake with this when I was doing the sleeves, and with the decreases. So you start off with a few rounds all the same, and then you start decreasing. And for the size I was making, you were supposed to do, I think you're supposed to decrease every 4th round, but I decreased every 3rd round, which was a mistake. But then I tried it on and it fits. I'll show you the sleeve on again. It fits fine. It might be a little tight to pull on, but I tend to wear sort of tight long sleeve t-shirts in the winter, or I can wear it over a dress. I don't wear anything too baggy, so I think it should be fine. It won't just, it might need me to, you know, hold down the cuff of the thing I'm wearing underneath while I put it on, but I think it should be fine. But yeah, so obviously it's a much more fitted sleeve than the actual design of the cardigan. So I debated frogging it and going back and reducing the decreases, but in the end I decided not to. Partly perhaps lazy, and partly because I was actually quite happy with how it was, and if I did change it I might not have been so happy with it. But that also meant that when I got to the cuff, so in the pattern it's still, the sleeve is still quite wide when you get to the cuff, and then it sort of pulls, the cuff pulls it in quite a bit. So she's got various options for how much to decrease the round before the cuff, and I went for the least amount of pulling it in because it was already quite narrow, having decreased quite a bit already, but then it made the cuff, it was like really tight and small, and it was just ridiculous. So in the end I didn't do any more decreasing at all before I put the cuff on, and I think it's absolutely fine like that. So obviously I'm going to do the same thing on the other sleeve. I'm not yet sure whether I'm going to put pockets on or not. I think I'd make it all, put it on and see how it is, and then decide. I don't want to add the pockets and it sort of spoil it in any way, so I might leave it without pockets, but we shall see. I also need to find and choose some buttons for it at some point. But yeah, really pleased with that. I'm making it with Drops Nord, I think. Yeah, Drops Nord in colour number 9. It doesn't say the name if it has one on there, but yeah, it's very much a me sort of colour, and I'm looking forward to having this finished so I can wear it this winter. So that's the Candelaria cardi, and that went on hold for a little while over the last few weeks when it was really hot, because I suddenly decided I wanted to make a crochet, we call it a crochet vest, but I think in America, in the States, you might call it something else. I'm not sure what, but I think you'd call a vest something else. When I've been looking for crochet, what I'd call a vest pattern, all sorts of things came up that I wouldn't have called a vest at all. So I think there's some difference in what we call things. But anyway, this is what I call a vest. Sound like there's a program, isn't there, where someone says it's what I call a something, and then someone corrects and says no, it's what we all call, I can't think what it is now. Anyway, this is what I call a vest, and this particular vest is called the what's it called? I wrote it down. Wings of a Butterfly it's called, because of this pattern around the bottom, which obviously looks like butterflies. And I bought this from the We Crochet website. Sorry, I've written it down here, I keep looking down. I bought this from the We Crochet website, and it was in an ebook called I didn't write it down. It was called something like Cool Crochet for Warm Days, I think it was called that, and it's got about 6 or so different patterns in it, and they're all by the same designer, Janine Miska, who's called Knits and Knots. So they're all sort of summery garments and shawls, and I think one's a dress, there's a couple of vest tops. So it was a bit more expensive obviously than buying a single pattern, but not that much more. So if I make one other thing from it, then I think, you know, that's absolutely fine. So this vest you can wear in the pictures, or in the main or sort of first pictures, the model's wearing it this way around with the V-neck at the front and the high back, but then it also shows you that it can be worn this way around with a high bit at the front. And I made this with leftover yarn from the Vita blanket and also from another project which used exactly the same yarn. So I had some leftover of the Ecru King Cole Cotton Soft DK yarn. So I used that. What I need to work out though is, at the moment, I need to wear, well, I think I need to wear something under it when I wear it, and I haven't quite worked out what that is. Or I might, you know, which bra goes best and that sort of thing. So that's why I'm not wearing it today. I think it'd be good on the beach over a bikini anyway. It fits well. It's just working out what to wear, if anything, under it. Also, I made it in this colour, which I am quite happy with because I already had that yarn. But now I've tried out the pattern and know it fits and whatever, I think I'd actually quite like to make it in a darker colour, maybe a navy. The pictures in the patterns, the model's wearing it in a really nice rusty terracotta-y, dark terracotta-y colour, which looks really nice as well. Yeah, so I'd quite like to make it in a darker colour, and I think what I'd also do, because I'm quite tall, is just make it a tiny bit longer in the body. It is fine, but I think I would just, I mean, I'm not quite sure where it goes, I can't remember it, but somewhere around there, I might just make it a little bit longer in the body if I were to make it again and buy some more yarn. But to be honest, it's nearly the end of August now. It is still really warm, but who knows how long that's going to go on for. So I'm not sure that I will get round to that this year. It might be something that I decide to do next year, and if I do, I should do it early in the summer or just before the summer, so I've got the whole summer to wear it, because this would have been great when it was really, really hot, but it's not so hot anymore. Anyway, I do really like it, and it's really nice and soft, and it was really quick to make as well. But so that did take me away from the Candelaria cardi for a little bit. So those are the 4 projects that I wanted to show you today. I thought I'd talk a little bit about plans as well. So when I finish the Candelaria cardi, the next thing I want to make is actually a knitting project. I have done small amounts of knitting before. Before my first daughter was born, I knitted her a small hat and a small jumper, and I started knitting her a blanket, but I didn't finish it before she was born. Then it got put down, and I did finish it off just before my second daughter was born. So I have done some knitting, and then it all got stopped, and I sort of forgot how to do it. And then last winter I made a hat, the Ribbon Gather hat by Emma Potter, and that sort of kicked me off knitting again, kind of, but I haven't done anything since then. But I did think after I made that hat that it was definitely, knitting was different. I did enjoy the feel of knitting with needles as opposed to using a crochet hook, so I decided then it was definitely something I wanted to be doing a bit more of. But I won't be switching or anything like that from crochet to being a knitter. I'd say I was a crocheter with a little bit of knitting. Anyway, all that is to say that the next project that I am planning on doing after I finished off the Candelaria cardi is the Felix pullover. I think it's pullover or sweater, jumper. And I'll show you the yarn I've got for that. I bought the yarn a while ago. When I bought the yarn for the Candelaria cardi, I also bought the yarn for the Felix pullover, and I looked at loads and loads of different colours and ended up going for, it's another drops yarn, but it's an Aran weight yarn, drops Nepal, and it's pretty much the same colour. Let me hold them up. I think it might be exactly the same as the colour that I'm using for the Candelaria cardi. They are pretty much identical, aren't they? They might even be identical. Different number, colour 8905 for this one, but they're pretty much the same. And I love this colour. Part of me now is wishing I had bought a different colour though, maybe a rusty colour or something. But I've also bought all the needles, which I did find a bit confusing, to be honest, because you need a lot of needles, like compared to what you need to crochet something, which is just one or sometimes two hooks. You needed straight needles, I think double-ended maybe, no maybe not, and you needed circular needles with different length cordy bits between them. So I'm all stocked up on the knitting needles that the pattern says you need. So I hope that my gauge matches the pattern. I suppose if it doesn't, because I don't want to buy more needles, they're quite, you know, they add up when you're buying lots of them. So I suppose if it doesn't, I might just have to make a bigger or smaller size of follow a bigger or smaller size of the pattern to match my to compensate for any difference in tension, something like that, instead of buying more needles. Anyway, that's all ready to go. So as soon as the Candelaria cardi is finished, that's going to be my next project. So might be starting that maybe sometime in September, which I'm quite looking forward to. I'm also planning on working on, I've got lots of ideas for new blankets. So once I get sorted, I'm planning on starting work on a couple of those, working out what yarn I want and getting that ready. I had a sort of a flurry of for me quite regularly designing for magazines, mainly Crochet Now magazines, but also design for one or two other things. And the last few months I haven't really done any design for anyone else, just for myself, which has been nice. But I would quite like to go back to submitting some designs to magazines. So I think I also want to spend a bit of time working on some swatches of the ideas that at the moment are just sketched out, and maybe submitting those to some crochet magazines and see what happens. And if they're not accepted, then I might make them into blankets anyway. Yeah, so that's what I'm planning for the next couple of months. And that's about it for all the crochet chat. So if you're only here for the crochet, then feel free to stop watching now. But the next thing I'm going to chat about is what I've been listening to while I've been crocheting, because I started chatting, including a bit a while ago, might have only been one, I'm not sure, one or two podcasts about things that I've been listening to while I've been crocheting. Because I find if I try and watch something, which I do sometimes, but when I'm watching something while I'm crocheting, I don't get as much crochet done as when I'm just listening to something, because you get distracted by what's on the screen and sort of stop crocheting to look at that, and before you know it, minutes have gone past and you haven't done any crochet. So for quite a while now, I've been listening to audiobooks and podcasts and things like that while I've been crocheting, instead of watching TV. This is in the evenings mainly. And last time I was intending to do a little roundup of things that I'd listened to recently that I'd enjoyed, but didn't get it ready in time. And I know a few people have said that they did enjoy that, so I have got organised this time and made some notes about things that I've listened to over the last few months. So because it's quite a while since I've done this, there are quite a few things that I have listened to, so I'll try not to go on about them for too long. But I'll just run through them with you now, and I'll put links to them as well. So I have an Audible subscription, so I think all of these I've listened to on Audible, and most of them I bought with like the credits you get from the subscription. One or two of them were free, that you can listen to for free as part of the Audible subscription. Oh, there was one other thing that I haven't written down actually, which I'll tell you about that now, so I don't forget, because I didn't write it down. So I don't know why it doesn't show up, to be honest. But you also get these things on Audible, which they call podcasts. They are podcasts. That's my husband. I don't know if you can hear him. But this was a podcast called See Inside Your Mind and it was read, maybe written and produced as well, I'm not sure, by Stephen Fry. And it's all about the human brain and what we know about it and what we don't know about it. And there's around about 10 episodes, which are kind of like chapters of a book. It could have just been really a reading of a book, apart from, I think there were bits where there were interviews and it was a bit more sort of chatty at times. And he did quotes from other books, what other people have said. Might not have actually had other people talking, but that was absolutely fascinating. So if you've got an Audible subscription, I'd really recommend listening to that. It's called See Inside Your Mind, and it's all about the history of neuroscience, I guess, and what we know about the human brain, its structure, how it works, how these things were found out, and it's presented in a really interesting, not so much entertaining, but captivating way. It's not just boring facts. So that was really good, and I'd recommend that. Another non-fiction thing I've listened to is the book Invisible Women, which is by Caroline Criado Perez, and she narrates that herself on Audible. So I think it's always quite nice when the book is narrated by the author, because you really feel like you hear it as they wrote it, as they want you to hear it. And she narrated it really well. And Invisible Women is all about what she calls and what is the data gap in relation to women. So basically it's where women are just completely overlooked in all sorts of areas of society, from health and economics and politics and all sorts of things. And it's absolutely fascinating and terrible as well. It was written a few years ago, and there have been improvements, I think, since, in some ways, but not in others perhaps. And she's also, I think quite recently, there's only a few episodes, started a podcast which has, I believe, I'll check and put it in the show notes, it has the same name. It's also called Invisible Women, I think, where she talks about the issues in the book, but making them sort of up to date and things that have been in the news. And one thing I especially liked in the book, and you might like as well, is that it even mentions crochet. There was a crocheter who was also a scientist, and she crocheted these sort of sculptures of hyperbolic planes to illustrate to people what they actually look like, because they're a sort of a structure that's really hard to get your head around. And she was working in this field of science where it was important to understand this, and so she worked out a way to crochet a hyperbolic plane to show everybody what they actually look like, rather than people just trying to figure it out in their heads. So that's another really, really good read, which I'd really recommend you either read or listen to. Then the other things I've listened, then there were two things by Bill Bryson, which these were free and included, I think, with Audible. One was At Home, A Short History of Private Life, and the other one was A Short History of Nearly Everything. And I wouldn't call them short histories. I suppose they're short in that they're quite big topics that he covers in a single book. Like Nearly Everything is obviously quite a big topic to cover, but they are long, and there's a lot of detail in them, and lots of anecdotes and interesting facts. And I really like listening to them, because I don't think I would find time to read as books. I think I'd find them a bit overwhelming and intimidating because they'd be so big. I don't even know if the At Home one is available as a book. It might just be an exclusive Audible audiobook, but they're really interesting and good to listen to over a long period while you're crocheting. So those two other books I've listened to. Then moving on to fiction, I listened to Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, which is quite popular, I think, at the moment. And that was really good. It made you want, it's about a female chemist in the 1950s, I think, 1950s or 60s America. It's all fiction, but she's quite a determined character, but obviously suffers hugely from being a woman in a man's field, and there's lots of discrimination and unfair treatment against her. And at times the book just makes you want to scream with frustration for her, but there's also more to the plot than just her battling against the men. There's a lot more than that. I don't want to give too much away, but it's about her child and TV and finding out about her well, they don't get married, about her partner's, I didn't mean to give that away, but finding out about her partner's past and where he comes from and things like that. And so although it did make you want to pull your hair out at times with the unfairness of it all and just scream at the awful men in the book, not all of them are awful, but there are some awful men in the book, it is a really good story, which I really enjoyed. And then the last one is something I'm currently listening to, which is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. She's a very popular Irish author at the moment, and there was a BBC dramatisation of, what was it called? Another one of her novels, which I can't remember at the moment what it was called, a few years ago, and that was quite watchable, and I'd always wanted to read or listen to one of her books. So I've started listening to Conversations with Friends, but I have to say I'm going to finish it because I've paid for it with an Audible credit, but I'm finding it really quite slow and heavy. It's well written, but the characters, I just finding them really annoying. The main character especially, I think she's the narrator, but it's from her perspective. She's very self-analysing all the time, reflecting on what she said, what other people said, what she did and how it would have appeared to other people, and it's just a bit too much for me. You just want to get on with it and don't overanalyze all the time. So I don't think it's a good book, but I don't think I'll be buying or listening to any more. If one was on TV, if it was dramatised or something, I might watch it because they're interesting stories, but it's not, I'm pleased I've tried it to see what it's like, but it's not something I don't think I'll be returning to her as an author. I wouldn't buy one of her books to read because I think they're just a bit too slow for me. Slow's not quite the right word, but a bit too, the characters are too analysing themselves too much all the time. So that's the end of the podcast for this time. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any suggestions of any good podcasts or audiobooks that you've listened to that you recommend, I'd love to hear them. So if you've got anything like that, just please drop a comment below. That'd be really interesting to hear it. I hope you like the new pattern, the Vita blanket. Don't forget you can get 15% off until Friday, and there'll be links to everything in the show notes below. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please give it a like, a thumbs up, and even better, subscribe if you're not already. That would be brilliant. And enjoy the rest of your August, and I will see you next time, hopefully in a few weeks. Bye bye.